You ever have that sensation during the night where you swear you've been awake? Maybe it was a long, difficult night for you, maybe you feel terrible, but then someone close to you, maybe a family member or a friend, tells you, "No, I saw you. You were sound asleep. In fact, you were snoring." What you most likely experienced here was paradoxical insomnia. It also goes by a few other names as well: sleep state misperception, hypersleep, and more recently, subjective objective sleep discrepancy. When we get this sort of feedback from our friends and family, it can make us feel like we are almost being gaslit. If we were sleeping, why did it feel like we were awake? And why do we still feel like shit when we wake up? What's going on here? If you're new to the channel, my name is John. I'm an insomnia coach. I had chronic insomnia for over 7 years. Now I help others overcome their own insomnia when sleep hygiene, medications, and CBTI don't. In this video, I want to go over my own experiences with paradoxical insomnia, what some current research has found on it, and more importantly, what to do about it. So back when I was dealing with insomnia, I had a lot of experience with paradoxical insomnia. I just could not shake it, so I know firsthand how frustrating it feels. I could not get beyond that really shallow sleep, what feels like you're on the edge of consciousness. Relatively early on in my journey with insomnia, I had a take-home sleep test done. That night, I had a terrible night of sleep with this monitoring device on. It was a notoriously difficult night, even by my own insomnia standards. However, I was relieved because I had got all this good quality data for them to observe. I was afraid that they wouldn't be able to capture anything if I just so happened to have a rare night of good sleep. But that definitely wouldn't be the case here. It was the perfect, terrible night of data that they could go off of and then come up with a treatment plan for me. Or so that's what I thought. So I had scheduled a follow-up appointment with them to go over the results, and they told me that I had slept. I was apparently totally asleep just fine. The sleep physician shrugged his shoulders and didn't really have anything for me, and I walked away feeling more confused and hopeless than ever. Sometime later, I heard about CBTI. For those of you new to that, that's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And I was told it was bad to stay in bed for longer than 15 minutes. This was really stressful for me because I wasn't sure if my own guess of how long I was laying in bed was accurate enough. In other words, I wasn't sure if I was getting up too early or too late, and if I was somehow setting myself up for failure or a difficult night of sleep if I was getting up at the wrong time. So what I did was I got a tiny alarm that would gently chime every 15 minutes. It wouldn't be loud enough to wake me up, but if I was awake, it would notify me that it was time to get up out of bed. That night, I had a miserable night of tossing and turning, and I was annoyed when I saw sunlight creeping in and the alarm didn't fire off. This stupid thing was broken. As I was cursing about it, I heard it go off. Okay, interesting. So I thought to myself, maybe this alarm stopped working during the night. So the next night, I set up everything again, but this time I also had a recorder to make sure that the alarm was firing off during the night. Wouldn't you know it, the next night was also very difficult and I didn't hear the alarm go off. This thing must be broken. But a part of me decided to check out the recording, and wouldn't you know it, the recorder was able to hear and pick up the alarm every 15 minutes. Again, this alarm was certainly loud enough for me to hear it when I was awake in my bed. So in conclusion, I must have been asleep on some level. Now I was really confused here. What was going on? When I started learning more and more about insomnia, I found out that this wasn't that uncommon. In fact, it seems that if you have chronic insomnia, almost always you experience paradoxical insomnia as well. They tend to go hand in hand. In fact, this phenomenon is so common, there's an article published on Yahoo a few days ago. I can't believe I'm referencing a Yahoo article. This article explores some efforts taken by researchers to get a better understanding of what's going on here. It's a frequent issue in insomnia, said Matthew Reed, a neuroscientist and sleep researcher at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. An insomniac may say that they have barely slept, but when tested in a sleep lab, they might actually be sleeping a normal amount of hours per night. This leads to a conundrum. How could somebody be sleeping when they don't even realize it? So, paradoxical insomnia causes people to think that they aren't getting any sleep, but in fact, they're apparently getting much more sleep than they realize. Even the medical equipment that they are attached to reports that sleep is happening, just like it was for me. If this describes you, you are in good company. So, why is this happening and what's going on? So it doesn't seem like researchers have a 100% perfect understanding yet, but the article does go on to suggest that the devices might not be capturing enough data. Commonly used observational techniques might miss the nuances of brain activity during the transition into sleep, or the moments between sleep stages. Andrelon said, the technology might not be sensitive enough to capture wake-like brain activity that could explain the feeling of being awake while sleeping. Andrelon said that when other researchers have studied deeper areas of the brain, they found signs of arousal, even when people seemed asleep. So it seems like we are getting some sort of sleep that's tainted with some wakefulness. Something that often gave me reassurance when I was going through insomnia was knowing that I at least seemed to be getting some sleep out of these uncomfortable, paradoxical insomnia nights. Maybe it wasn't the best quality, but my body seemed to be getting something out of the experience. Now, why is this happening? Well, my approach to insomnia is based off the NADO framework developed by the Sleep Coach School, which I utilize in my own approach with clients. This framework suggests that there are many causes for losing sleep. For example, something as simple as a new prescription medication could certainly be the cause of some sleep disruption. But for those instances where sleep is still suffering and we develop a longer-term chronic insomnia, even when the original sleep disturbance is no longer a factor, then there's a good chance that we've developed a fear or unacceptance or some sort of aversion around experiencing nighttime wakefulness. I get that sounds kind of woo-woo, but think about it. If your brain thinks that it's in a dangerous situation, it's not going to let you fall asleep. That would be quite a shortcoming of your brain if it let you fall asleep while you were in a dangerous situation or while you were perceived to be in a dangerous situation, such as, for example, a burning building. That wouldn't be a good quality feature of our brains. So what do we do about this? This is something I go over a bit in my 3 a.m. video recording. I've left a link for you below in the description, but I'll tell you what really isn't helpful. Trying to force sleep to happen and checking the time are really not helpful here. They both reinforce the belief that we are in a state of danger, which really is the one thing that fully exacerbates this problem. What's much more helpful to do instead of trying to force sleep to happen is to make the best out of our wakefulness. Do whatever it is that you would normally do if you had free time during a nice, easy Saturday afternoon. What that does is that slowly reinforces the idea and teaches our brain that nighttime wakefulness isn't something that we have to escape from, something that we have to fight tooth and nail out of. This is not a quick fix, but this is a thorough fix, and that takes time. If you really want a much better understanding of what that looks like, I would highly recommend you check out my 3 a.m. program. It's only 10 minutes long. Again, I've left a link for you below. Fortunately, whether you are wide awake or if you find yourself in that half awake, half asleep state, our approach is still the same. And I'm very glad that that's the case because it makes our recovery much simpler and much gentler. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please feel free to do the usual like, comment, subscribe stuff. Here at Insomnia to Peace, I provide coaching services for people looking to overcome their insomnia for good.